Bill Wyman played bass with the Rolling Stones from 1962 to 1993. Despite spending most of those 30 years in the shade of his higher-profile bandmates, he's the only Rolling Stone to have had a hit single as a solo performer. He sits at number 10 on Maxim magazine's list of top 10 living sex legends, thanks to his reputation for having bedded over 1,000 women. But playing bass and seducing women aren't the only things that have been keeping him busy. In 2006, Bill got to showcase his lesser-known skill, photography, at the San Francisco Art Exchange.
It's quite exciting because I shot photos for about 40 years and I never published anything, so they're all like new. I've used a few in books, that's all. My book on the Rolling Stones, Rolling with the Stones, I used a few here and there, but generally nobody's seen anything.
The exhibition, called Wyman Shoots, marked his international debut as a photographer. It featured almost 100 original images. Most of them were in colour and many featured his past with the Rolling Stones.
I've got pictures of the band rehearsing at various places. There's quite some hilarious pictures because they're like loons sometimes. They go mad, stupid, especially Woody and Keith. So I've got some really nice ones of Charlie. Whenever you take a picture of Charlie, he's so photogenic that whatever he puts on looks great. He puts on wigs, funny hats, pulls funny faces and all that, and they turn out to be really good pictures.
Although he drew inspiration from several photographers, Bill claims to have developed his own individual style. Apart from his paparazzi shots, there are also plenty of nature photographs, including fisheye images and shots of rainbows.
They're all just shots that are not posed, not rehearsed, not worked out, not waiting till someone looks at you and smiles. So I like it like that. And I like that close focus so I can get that blurred images behind and also in front sometimes.
Among the works shown were snaps of the Rolling Stones, who in their early days were always impressed by Bill's endless supply of cigarettes.
There's quite a lot of celebrities, obviously the Stones and various other people I've shot side stage, like Elton and John Lee Hooker and B.B. King and people like that.
Bill was an outsider from the group right from the start. When he joined the Stones, he was married and older than the rest of the young party boys. Perhaps this is why he became such good friends with guitarist Mick Taylor, the only member besides Wyman who left the band voluntarily. They went on to work with each other on solo projects after Taylor had left the band. Wyman kept a relatively low profile compared to Mick Jagger and Keith Richards. He was considered the most level-headed of the band members, even though he had a relationship with a 13-year-old girl whom he later married and quickly divorced. It's often been suggested that it was this relationship with Mandy Smith that triggered his decision to leave the band. He was a moderate user of drugs and alcohol compared to the other band members, but later admitted that he'd used his addiction to women as a psychological crutch. The last Stones album he contributed to was Steel Wheels. When he left after 30 years, the band decided not to replace him with another frontline member and drafted in Daryl Jones to play bass behind the scenes.
I didn't really want to do it anymore. There came a time in my life when I wanted to do other things, really. And we're still great friends. I still see them and chat to them. But I just really don't want to do it anymore. I've done enough. It's 30 years.
Since leaving the Rolling Stones, Bill opened the Sticky Fingers Cafe in 1989, a rock and roll themed bistro serving American cuisine in London. He is an amateur archaeologist and avid cricket supporter, scoring a hat-trick at a celebrity match at the Oval against a former England 11. He also went on to set up the blues rock band The Rhythm Kings, who frequently perform live throughout Europe and America. But with his heady past well behind him and now in his 70s, Wyman's great love is taking pictures. Everything from gates and rail yards to landscapes. Mick Jagger has won a Golden Globe and 2 Grammys. He has dabbled in acting, film producing, and is a savvy businessman. As he prepared for the release of his Best of Mick Jagger album, he could afford to sit back and reflect on his life and fortunes, his past achievements, his hopes for the future, and the many collaborators he has worked with.
It does span a lot of years. It starts in the first track was made in 1970 and the last one a couple of years ago. So I think that when you listen to them, from when I listen to them, to me, it reminds me of different times with different people who inspired this one, who plays on this one, and so on. And then you can hear in the recording which periods it's all from, and so on. So, yeah, it does take you back. With some of them more than others. But.
Fans see the Rolling Stones as an institution. They could well keep playing into their 70s, but it is their early career that Mick looks back on with the most fondness.
Well, I suppose you're always attached to the beginnings of your career when you're really young, in a lot of ways. And you know, when you're young, so much happens so quickly, and it's all telescoped into this very small time frame. But many things happened, so you're always amused by. When you look back at it, you're always amused by your very young years, because it's like things you're trying to do, but they're not being really achieved. You think you're doing them at the time, but you're really not. And that's always rather endearing.
Reflecting on rock and roll today, he's not perturbed by the elaborate manufacturing process that goes into producing many of the bands. He believes all eras have their individualist and eclectic artists, while others are more manufactured.
Then you have a whole group of other people which are much more doing their own music, writing their own songs and presenting themselves in their own way, and I don't think that you know there's any lacking of those kind of people if that's what you admire. Maybe you can admire a manufactured pop singer. That's a trick in itself. There's nothing wrong with this trick. It's been going on for a long time. But I think there's always people out there that come up that have talent, and also they don't always approach the business in the same way, in the same pliant way perhaps that other people might.
Well known for his high-powered performances on stage, Mick works at keeping up his energy levels.
I was very blessed with having a lot of energy ever since I was a kid, and and being very active, and my parents always encouraged me to keep in good shape and stuff, and I've always been very energetic, and I don't think I would feel bad about doing a show if I wasn't really fit to do it. So, I always like to do an energetic show. And I love watching other people do energetic shows too.
Now, Mick is putting some of his energy behind stopping the genocide in Sudan's Darfur region. Over recent years, the conflict in this region has caused hundreds of thousands of deaths and uprooted 2.5 million people. Mick has financed Living Darfur, the first pop video to be shot in a refugee camp in Darfur. He is reported to have spent £25,000 on the video. The star-studded effort includes Matt Damon, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, actress Scarlett Johansson, and supermodel Elle Macpherson.
The Darfur tragedy is ever-changing. It's not the same Darfur it was 4 years ago. And of course, you feel really helpless. People individually, like myself and whoever, like yourself, perhaps you feel that you can't do anything, and all we try and do is to keep it so that people realise it's still going on, because people get bored very quickly. Politicians get bored. They have other things to do. They want to get re-elected. They have other immediate things on their hands, and all you can do in a very small way if you're a celebrity in some of these things is to keep the thing in the agenda. Keep it in the public agenda, keep it in the political agenda as much as you can.
In 2001, the New York Observer published an article entitled Mick Jagger, Our Most Underrated Songwriter. In the article, Ron Rosenbaum calls him a writer of brilliant, soulful, soaring anthems, hymns to broken hearts, broken spirits, and fragmented hopes of redemption. Although Mick has never struck chart-topping gold with his solo efforts, his prolific output over the years has confirmed his place in history as a prodigious writing talent. And he's never happier than when he's on a major songwriting roll. On the back of coming up with new tunes for the Rolling Stones' Bigger Bang album, he got to work on the soundtrack of the remake of the 2004 comedy Alfie. The film was a remake of the 1966 classic of the same name, about a Cockney womaniser who learns the hard way about the dangers of his actions. The film originally starred Michael Caine as Alfie, but the remake sees Jude Law in the title role, along with Susan Sarandon and Marissa Tomei.
There's Alfie in every woman, every man too. No, I think, Alfie's this young, attractive man, and you think, I think the whole idea at the beginning of the picture is that, why shouldn't he have lots of girlfriends? It seems perfectly natural that he would, because they're all throwing themselves at him. But then it's quite amusing how he deals with them and so on, because it's only a bit later on that you get, when that draws you into the picture, that you feel, then you see the problems that creates and so on.
Known to indulge in his own fair share of womanising, Mick disagreed that there were strong similarities between him and Alfie's character.
He is a guy that has a lot of girlfriends, lots of love affairs, but he doesn't have much else going on. And he doesn't have, he drives a car, he's a repetitive job, doesn't really have any interest in anything else. He's not interested in anything, as far as I can work out in the picture, except seducing more women.
The difference, of course, is that aside from seducing plenty of women, Mick has lots going on for him. Like Keith Richards, Jagger had no formal musical training and taught himself how to play keyboards and guitar. He studied for a degree in accounting and finance with a minor in physical education, but dropped out after the first year to pursue a musical career. However, the grounding in business and accounting certainly did not go to waste, as Mick's personal fortune has been valued at around £215 million, or $425 million. Alfie was not the first movie that Mick has been involved in musically. He composed an improvised soundtrack for Kenneth Anger's film Invocation of My Demon Brother on the Moog synthesizer in 1969, and set up his own production company in 1995 called Jagged Productions with Victoria Pearman. For the Alfie soundtrack, Mick teamed up with Eurythmics co-founder Dave Stewart to write and perform 13 songs for the film, including the haunting Old Habits Die Hard, which was released by Virgin Records as the first single from the soundtrack CD. So, 4 decades into his musical career, does he still get a buzz when releasing new material?
Well, you're always pleased with what you do, otherwise you wouldn't do it, so you get, you do get kind of a, when you've been working on something and then no one's really heard it, then it's kind of fun to play it to other people, and you get excited and you want to know kind of quietly how they think about it, So what do you think? No, you know what I mean? That's what you ask your friends.
At 61, Mick is happiest when he immerses himself in writing and producing records.
Yeah, but the first thing we have is we have a live CD coming out in November, which is 2 live CDs, which is pretty interesting because one is unknown songs, that have never been out live before, and the other CD is well-known tunes. And then the other thing is I've been writing new songs for the Rolling Stones' next album, so we're gonna get. Well, that won't be out till we just started, so I wouldn't think that would be out till sometime next year, but we'll start recording it in November.
Despite the heavy schedule, he still likes to keep things simple in the studio.
I know I would make a relatively simple album, not too sprawling and quite concentrated, but I don't really know much more than that. That's my idea. They don't always work like that. But no, it should be good, and I've been writing for the last month for that.
The Alfie soundtrack also features performances by Sheryl Crow and Joss Stone. In 2003, Q magazine named the Rolling Stones as one of the 50 bands to see before you die. In that same year, the Stones went on tour to promote their compilation album 40 Licks. The Licks tour was a lengthy, truly worldwide concert tour, which started in 2002 and continued through to 2003. The tour was made of the Stones' traditional mix of theatre, arena and stadium venues. They didn't have too much new music to promote, but went on stage with a high-octane set list. Their gig at Olympiahalle, a multi-purpose arena in Munich, originally built by Hitler as part of the Olympic Park, was high up on the agenda. The seating capacity for the arena can vary from 12,150 up to 14,000. and a planned massive overhaul due to be completed by 2010 will see the seating extended to 15,500. But back in 2002, it was a sellout crowd of 12,000 that rocked out to the Stones' 2-hour show in Munich.
It's a very lively crowd last night, you know, there were a lot of energy. There was actually the first time we've done, how do you call it, general admission, they call it in America, where there's no seats. And so it was the first time we'd done that in a long while. And that seemed to work, and the energy level was good in the place. And if the audience has got a good energy level, then it helps you a lot. And it was all men, Charlie says. It was all men. I don't know what that says. They left all the girls at home, or what, I don't know. Usually we get a few sort of bits of underwear on the B stage. Last night there's a few Y fronts, but anyway.
Perhaps it was just as well, because grown women have been known to sob their hearts out to Mick's rendition of Angie. During the show, videos of animated topless women were shown trying to pierce the famous Rolling Stones' tongue before being devoured. Mick said the secret to the band's success was its image.
Image is everything. No, you know, you've got to do everything. You've got to sound good. You've got to play right. You've got to be, you know, you've got to do the whole thing. That's what, you know, show business is all about. There's nothing new, nothing old about that.
Back in the early days, the band would perform short tours playing North America, the UK and continental Europe on a 3-year rotating cycle. The venues would be small to medium-sized and would be packed full of screaming girls. As the band grew up, their music began transcending all ages and genders. Now they have equally a huge following amongst men as they do women, and the band has now developed a reputation for being the world's best stadium act.
We know we have a vague association with Munich because we made a lot of our records here, and also I think, you know, it's obviously a good town for us because we attract a big audience in this part of Bavaria, but people also come from all over Germany. There's people there. Last night were from all over Germany, indeed from all over Europe, and I think that, you know, it's a great place for us, and obviously we have a big crowd and people turn up, so, you know, that's where you want to start. You don't want to start in a place where it's like a marginal, small place where, you know, you're not sure of your audience. So Munich is one of those places that's one of our favourite places.
But playing to massive arenas hasn't always gone as smoothly. The Rolling Stones' early gigs were dogged by violence. The most famous and heavily documented of all the band's concerts took place at the Altamont Speedway in 1969. A gang of Hells Angels bikers had been hired to provide security on the promise of $500 worth of beer. Violence erupted and tragedy resulted when young fan Meredith Hunter was stabbed and beaten to death by the Angels. According to reports, Hunter was on amphetamines at the time and decided to pull out a gun while standing in front of the stage. A 21-year-old member of the Hells Angels, Alan Passaro, was charged with the crime, but claimed he'd only acted in self-defense. This tour and famous incident features in Albert and David Maisley's film Give Me Shelter. Compared to the fallout at the Altamont Speedway, the 40 Licks tour ended tamely, with fans leaving quietly and politely. Equally polite was Keith Richards, who was determined not to leave anyone out of the thank yous.
At this point, I would like to say, because we do forget sometimes, that there are other guys playing with us. And I'd like to give a hand to the rest of the guys that are not here, but are on stage with us, you know. So, leave it at that.
Expelled from Dartford Technical School for truancy, the headmaster suggested to Keith Richards that he would be better off at art school. Keith took his headmaster's advice and immersed himself in this heady, creative environment of art school, where he devoted his time to playing guitar. Even at this early stage, he was already taking whatever drugs he could get his hands on, with fellow student and future musical colleague Dick Taylor. They would swallow anything from girls' menstruation pills to pep diet pills, whatever would keep them awake and give them a buzz. Since then, he has been tried on drug charges 5 times, in 1967, twice in 1973, in 1977 and in 1978.
London. It's years since such crowds gathered to await an appeal verdict. But this was the Rolling Stones case, with the fans out in force. When Mick Jagger was conditionally discharged and Keith Richards' sentence quashed, the pop idols drove off, the shadow of jail no longer over them. Mick held a press conference in Soho soon afterwards. Keith had chicken pox, so couldn't be there. But Marianne Faithfull was present, delighted with the verdict.
Keith was found guilty of allowing cannabis to be smoked on his property and was sentenced to 1 year in prison. He and Mick Jagger were released on bail the next day, pending appeal, and buoyed by public outrage and media support, the convictions were overturned a month later due to lack of evidence. 10 years later, Keith was still up to his old tricks and back up on drugs charges.
Just get a word with. Keith Richards, how do you think this conviction is going to affect you and your music and the Rolling Stones?
Well, I don't know, I just want to get on with it now that it's over. You know, I just get on with what I'm supposed to be doing instead of worrying about this, you know.
Do you think it will have any effect then?
I don't know, I might get a song out of it.
What do you think about the way the case went?
I don't think anything. I didn't know what to expect, and what happened is what happened.
I don't think you can talk about it very much because we haven't had a chance to talk to the lawyers really.
It came as no surprise then that Keith Richards revealed in an interview with British magazine NME in April 2007 that he snorted his dad's ashes in a drugs binge. He said that he mixed his father's cremated remains with a bit of cocaine and called this his strangest drug experience to date. Richard's father, Bert, died in 2002 at the age of 84. Later reports clarified that Keith had only snorted a little bit of his dad's ashes with no cocaine and then buried them under a tree. Richards seems to revel in his bad boy of rock and roll image. He has claimed that his actions in his early career have confirmed in people's minds that he is still a mad drug addict and that nothing he does now will change their minds.
I'm checking out the scripts.
His bizarre accident in 2006 would have done little to help the cause. Keith suffered from a head injury when he fell out of a tree in Fiji, forcing the band to delay the European leg of their world tour. The Stones had been scheduled to kick off Europe's Bigger Bang tour with a show in Barcelona in May. But they pushed back the date to let Keith recover from surgery after suffering concussion. They ended up moving their opening gig to Italy. Keith, who allegedly came up with the riff for Satisfaction in his sleep, waking up just long enough to record it on a cassette player by his bed, joked at a press conference about undergoing brain surgery.
They put me out like a light, you know, but I remember making the decision to go ahead and do it, and I was surprised myself. Usually I'd be hanging from the ceiling at the idea of brain surgery, you know. But I had total confidence in it. When you got to do it, you got to do it, you know. And I was in, woke up. I was pissed off when they woke me up because I was having such a great sleep, you know.
And he avoided answering questions about what he'd been doing up a tree in the first place.
I feel great. I can't wait to get back on the stage again. You know, basically everything's cool.
They may not be known for their contribution to art house cinema, but in February 2008, all four of the Rolling Stones turned out to thrill the crowds at the 58th Berlin Film Festival. They were there to celebrate the world premiere of the Martin Scorsese documentary Shine a Light, a 2-hour film that captures the magic of the veteran British rockers as they strut their stuff at a packed New York venue. The documentary, filmed with 17 cameras at 2 concerts at the intimate Beacon Theatre in 2006, opened the annual festival. A fitting beginning to an 11-day cinematic marathon that is rich in rock and roll.
It's wonderful. I really enjoy it. I'm very happy to be here, and it's great fun, and everyone's been very warm, and we're very excited to be at this festival.
Ronnie Wood was just as excited to be part of the prestigious glamour event.
It's great. It's really mad. I miss all the madness, you know. I just dropped my phone as well. But no, it's great. It's the nearest thing to a gig. Hi.
Charlie Watts was the least excited as usual, remaining slightly confused about what he was actually doing there.
It's a nightmare, isn't it? It is, isn't it? You don't know what you're doing. I'm wandering about.
But Keith, who'd recently put in a cameo performance as Captain Jack Sparrow's father in Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, was well used to hearing the word action action.
Oh, well, this is not action. This is me doing my thing, and thank God that Martin wanted to capture it, because I mean, I had no idea the cameras were on. I mean, I just do my thing, you know. I mean, so whatever comes out is what is. You know?
Are you a bit camera shy?
By now, are you kidding me, baby? No, I love it.
Love it. Listen, you guys have been together for so long. Can you even imagine being without each other?
Easily. But it would never work, you know. I mean, no, we work together. You know, it's what it is. It's a good team.
Madonna was expected in Berlin for her directorial debut, while movies about singer Patti Smith, British indie band Gorillaz and a heavy metal group from Baghdad also featured. Then it was over to New York to promote the film that Mick Jagger had originally wanted as a record of one of their massive stadium gigs. But Martin Scorsese talked the band into thinking smaller.
Yeah, this is like a very intimate Stones concert, and you feel like you're almost on the stage, or very close to it, or you're very close to the action. So it's not like seeing a big stadium show. It's more like a really intimate thing. So it's different.
When they first said they wanted to do a movie of the tour, and we'd been on the road for 2 odd years, and I went, oh no, and then they said, oh no, but it's Martin Scorsese that wants to shoot it. You know, and I changed my mind in an instant, because I know the man has a vision. You know.
Well, you really do feel like you're there, you know, on stage, and it's quite an experience for us. We actually all watched it in Berlin together. We thought, nah, we don't want to see the whole thing. It was quite good, you know, we enjoyed it.
Martin inserted short clips of black and white archive footage between songs, showing a young Mick and Keith fielding inane and repetitive questions from reporters around the world. Just 2 years after the band formed, Mick was asked how long the band could keep going. He replied that he didn't know, and that they were pretty well set up for at least another year. In another interview, he was asked whether he could picture himself at the age of 60 doing what he's doing now, and Mick replied confidently, yes. Cameras were located in the crowd and behind the stage, giving a 360-degree view of the performance from both the fans and the band's point of view.
I'm just looking at it for pure beauty of performance, and that's the idea. It's something I'd like to capture for people in the future to see, to experience them. And don't forget, the cameras were placed in such positions that the audience doesn't normally get to see. That's the idea.